PC Perspective's coverage of CES 2016 is brought to you by Logitech. See the latest gaming peripherals at gaming.logitech.com. Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is a special edition CES 2016 Day 2. It is Tuesday night.
It's only Day 2.
Wednesday morning. What's that?
It's only Day 2.
Well, it's Day 2 of when we've been doing podcasts.
Wow.
Yeah. But the good news is we're only doing 3 days of podcasts. So this is the hump. The proverbial hump over which we must
No, we're already over the hump. 1.5 was a hump. Wait, no.
I don't know if that's how that works.
Once we get halfway done with this podcast.
Then yes,
Sure.
it's on.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll do that. So welcome back. Welcome to our wonderful suite at the Mirage. And everything is fantastic. We are missing one person. Who is it? It's
Josh.
Yes.
No, Josh.
I'm not here.
No, Josh is there.
Hey, Josh.
Missing.
Maury?
Yeah, Maury's not here today.
Yeah, okay. Would you like to
And
adjust
Jeremy.
levels?
Jeremy's not here today either.
No.
Right. So that's they're missing in action. But otherwise, the important people are here. So we'll figure out what's going on. So let's think about this. We're just going to go in order of meetings today,
Okay.
which means we start with Thermal Take.
Yes.
Sebastian, you went to go see Thermal Take. Was there anything interesting to see at the Thermal Take?
And let me ask you this: was there a nice black piano there that they put really sharp heat sinks on
Yeah, that did happen once.
multiple
Really?
times?
Often. Just like slide the heat sinks across the...
Like a really nice black piano
Yeah.
finish on a piano.
Yeah.
And then they put like the bare heat sinks
sinks.
on it as like a display area. And then it had like all these
Nice
micro
scratches.
swirls and scratch marks all over.
Oh, there weren't even micro. There were some serious sharp
really?
scratches.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. People drop
awesome.
them on there, and it was.
And we walked in, and there was like a huge, some kind of monstrous case mod right inside the door, and then another. They had some cool stuff in there on display that people had made, but it was 3 rooms. They had a suite, and another room, and then a room across the hall, and a lot of stuff. Way too much stuff to try to recap, but
Sure, just the highlights.
Yeah, the highlights were, we've already seen some of their bigger stackable cases, and a lot of RGB stuff.
That seems to be a very popular direction for product development.
RGB, not only new fans, and my favorite thing from the whole thing was actually high static pressure RGB fans.
Okay.
And they have their own little mechanical controller. So they have like this little dongle that you put somewhere inside your case, and you hit a button and it like changes the color. You have like a couple different controls. You can do the color cycle or solid color of any color you want.
So it's a mechanical switch, not like a software switch.
Correct. I asked him about software. He said right now they're just doing mechanical because that way it's like universal. It's
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
And it
way
worked
simpler,
fine.
way more simple to develop.
Yep. And he had like a front. They had like a front panel RGB control that had the individual color knobs, and you could very, precisely tune the exact colors that you want
Right.
throughout your system. So interesting stuff there. The fact that they had a high pressure fan was cool because a lot of times you're looking at fans on Newegg or Amazon or something, and you find the really cool looking fans, and they're like exhaust fans. They don't create enough static pressure to use them for a
Intake.
yeah, you could use them for maybe a lightweight application, but if you actually wanted real cooling from like anything with a lot of fin density, you couldn't use it. So,
Okay. All right.
so they had that. So and a variety of other things, but very, very much about RGB.
Right. So no new cases, no new cooling, like water
They had
cooling
some new
things.
cases. It was kind of like adding to existing models, like adding.
Okay.
It's very popular right now to have a shroud over the PSU.
Yes, that is in vogue,
Yes.
as we say in the business.
Yeah,
In vogue.
I don't think anybody says that, but
Oh, okay.
yeah. So fine tuning and some enhancements, a couple of new items, but nothing earth shattering.
Okay. That's fine. No, nobody, and I think that's kind of a recurring theme we'll have from CES this year is nothing earth-shattering, unfortunately. Also at 9 o'clock, let's see. Nope. I was supposed to go see Intel at 9 o'clock, but that was a bust. We'll see Intel at 9 o'clock tomorrow. ARM. We went to go see ARM at Paris.
Yeah, we did.
They also didn't have anything new
No.
to talk about or to show, but they did have a couple of interesting things.
Yeah.
One, I guess, to start with is like what they saw as what the future of what 2016 will be for smartphones. I guess.
The main concept what they were pushing was things are going to be interesting. Maybe not groundbreaking, not revolutionary.
But I posited to them that 2015 was pretty boring for smartphones. And obviously they would not admit that. They would go, well, we'd say it was okay, but 2016 is going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
Right, which basically means 2015 was kind of a bust.
Yeah, I mean, certainly they released specifications of like the A72, the new Mali graphics that they have developed,
model, but
like 800 series, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They also talked about things Qualcomm were doing with their custom IP and their graphics. But what they're really trying to push is that at pretty much every price point in the ARM ecosystem, you're going to have a pretty good phone. It's not like in the past where, your high-end phones are pretty functional, but you get down lower and things get pretty sluggish, pretty slow. The features are bad. Camera's bad. The software for the camera's bad. All of this stuff is just... But in 2016, this is going to change quite a bit because the SoCs, even at the low end, are still faster than what we saw 3-4 years ago.
Easily, yeah.
And, the software ecosystem is significantly more robust. Certainly with cameras, you have improvements in sensors, you have improvements with the software, and improvements in actually utilizing all the different aspects of the SoC you're using, whether it be just the CPU itself, the Neon SIMD units, or the GPUs in the different offerings. So there's some positive things there. 4K cameras are going to be a lot more
prevalent.
They
in
talked
the
about
higher
a
end. Specific implementation of 4K cameras where this is something that kind of makes sense if you think about it, right? So the getting a good photo is difficult.
In certain scenarios, obviously.
Yeah, he used the example of like you've got 5-year-old kids and you're trying to get a photo of all of them looking at you and smiling at the same time. Yes, Ken, why don't you borrow the headphones? It's a very difficult process to do, especially if you got to time the shutter and you've got to get everything right. But with 4K video, you could do
it's essentially it's an 8 megapixel frame.
Every frame, yes, 8 megapixels, yes,
yeah. And so then you shoot an X amount of frames, and you go through there and you choose the best shot.
Right. You essentially record 5 seconds of video, and then you can go through it and find, okay, here's the one where all the kids are actually looking in the right direction. I mean, it's a good idea. And it's the same idea of burst mode on a camera.
Yeah, it may be a little cumbersome to go through 24 times 5 frames.
Or even 30 or 60 frames per second.
Yeah, depending on your...
Yeah, that maybe would be a lot.
Yeah.
And then you go through your photo gallery later and you have thousands of images that look
surely
almost
they
identical.
Surely they would group those together. I think iOS does that with burst shots, right? They kind of group them, and then you pick one and you can easily discard the rest.
Now the new phones have that live mode.
Let's not even talk about that.
Yeah, and those are low qualities on the outside and the periphery. Yeah. Other than those two things, nothing really else from them stand out, or
they talked about how they have DSP in some of their Cortex M, but DSP is something that Qualcomm's really doing with their Hexagon. But I think ARM is mainly trying to get the software ecosystem and infrastructure to primarily leverage the CPU, GPU, and the Neon, and that gives the vast majority of their partners, pretty good opportunities to utilize the software as best they can without having to leverage, these DSPs.
Right.
We talked about VR. They essentially said there's 3 case scenarios that they're looking at: the augmented reality in the professional market, whether that be surgeons having,
CAD designers.
Yeah, architectural firms doing, visualization. And then you got gaming and graphics, which really, really rough. And then finally VR video, which is probably the first consumer VR for the mobile that is going to be effective and actually useful, because they say, you need 4K screens and 120 frames per second to to have a good VR experience without the nausea, without having to see, kind of the looking at the world through a screen door type effect that a lot of the current head-mounted displays feature. And, doing 3D graphics.
Go ahead.
Doing 3D graphics with a mobile architecture at 4K at 120 frames per second is...
Right. So we were basically comparing like the kind of a quality experience you can get with something like Gear VR versus the Rift and a full gaming PC. And because you're driving similar amounts of pixels, right? If you think about it, like on a phone screen, you're getting up to 4K screens pretty soon. And you're actually, like the Rift is slightly less than 4K on the pixels. GPUs on cell phones are clearly inferior in every way. So you either have to lessen the experience or you have to change the experience in some way until technology catches up. So they seem to agree with that.
The VR video is probably the easiest for them to do because they're already doing 4K video playback on these handhelds, and you can do that on there.
Right.
Finally, we just talked about some odds and ends about process technology. They're going 14, 16, probably some 22 and 28. I mean, the A72 is still very flexible. They've got 28 nanometer products out. They've got 16 nanometer that's coming out. And certainly the one kind of last point we talked about is that ARM's architecture is not nearly as susceptible to process node issues as, say, NVIDIA, AMD,
and
Intel.
not just ARM's architecture, but ARM as a company is not as susceptible to like the long delay between 28 and now 1614 FinFET.
Yeah.
Just because their partners can build it on, like you were saying, they can build it on 28, they can build it on 22, they can build it on 16 if they want.
Yeah.
There's probably a significant amount of changes that have to be made on the architecture between those, but it's possible to do. And for them as a company, they kind of, I don't want to say like pushes all the danger,
all the liability onto their
partners, but that's kind of what happens, right?
Yeah.
You guys, the
liability for them is that their partners go under and they don't get the licensing revenue.
Yeah.
And so that hurts them. So it's not in their best interest to, obviously school.
Somebody in the chat room saying the Rift is just over 1080p. That's not true. It is 1680 tall by 30-something across if you count both eyes. Mm-hmm. So you're still rendering that many pixels. So it's definitely significantly more than a 1080p screen in that regard. So that was ARM. Next, we went to MSI. So Ken and I went to go see MSI. Actually, I guess we all went to go see MSI at one point. They had some interesting stuff that were some videos are encoding, uploading eventually. They had a Vortex PC, like a what would you call it? Like a small form factor? Like what they?
It's almost like that
we
Mac.
have the same opinion about
We
what
would
was.
call it something.
The Mac trash can,
Yes.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
Not just
but is
sure.
it?
but it's a triangle rather than a circle.
It is.
No.
It is a triangle.
This one's
Mac Pro
more.
is a triangle on the inside.
Yeah, I know, but on the outside,
I mean,
it's a circle.
pretty rounded.
It's fairly rounded.
I know.
So I mean, it's definitely it's probably inspired by that, right? And the design looks internally kind of similar to that as well. The idea is you get a 6.5 liter space, and inside the 6.5 liter kind of cylindrical-ish, tower-ish space, they have a full desktop processor, Core i7-6700K. They had two GeForce GTX 980s running an SLI. MXM-based 980s, but full 980s running an SLI. They had 16 gigs of RAM. They had two M.2 SSDs, I think.
4 DIMM slots. Did you say that?
Yeah, I think I said 4 DIMM slots.
They said they were SODIMM.
SODIMM
But there were
slots.
4 of them, they believed.
Yep, DDR4. And then they had like one cyclone fan at the top that's pulling air out, so it's bringing air in from the sides as
And the
well.
bottom,
Again, very similar to what Apple did with the Mac Pro, but this is like a Windows gaming PC.
Right. With the Mac Pro, even though the price point for the Mac Pro is actually less, what you're getting is something that's all about compute, and it's super OpenCL heavy compute. If that works for you, if those lower end Fire Pro cards work for you, that's great. This is cool because it's like the same idea, that really small cylindrical computer with that, you have basically 3 sides. One is a CPU, One is the GPU, one is the other GPU.
Right.
And then
The frame inside the case is
and then the hot air is drawn up from the top, and they're probably using a unified thermal core, I would imagine, if they're only using a
I don't know.
fan.
Yeah.
I saw that there were heat sinks on each individual GPU on the outside.
Okay.
Really?
And then it was a
During the
strange,
video
and it was an
explosion.
interesting looking fan. You know, their Vortex fan or whatever they want to call it. It's really kind of unique looking. So it probably actually does create quite an interesting floor pack something.
So the pricing on it starts at $19.99 with dual 960s.
Yeah.
And a Core
i5
i5 processor. And they said to get the i7 and the two 980s, it was going to be closer to $4,000. So probably like $3,800 or something like that would be my guess. Display outputs, it had two Thunderbolt,
3.
two mini DisplayPort, two full-size HDMI.
Did it have mini DP?
Yeah, it was mini DP.
Yeah, two mini DP,
Two Type-C Thunderbolts.
HDMI 1.4.
Two HDMI
seems weird.
1.4s because they're 980s. I mean, so
180 supports 2.0.
oh well, then if the 980 supports 2.0, then they're 2.0.
Also, that demo TV did not look like it was running at 30 hertz.
It looked like it was running at 60.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They might have had that wrong then.
It happens.
Because if it 980 supports HDMI 2.0.
That's why I asked the question. I thought,
So-
it must just be like a pass-through.
And then you got like four USB 3.0 ports, whatever. And to me, it was an impressive combination of hardware, right? That is very expensive. That it has to have a very specific user set in mind, right? You have to be able to. You want to pay a lot more for this little tiny small form factor, and it's going to run Windows, and you're going to do gaming on it.
It's difficult to compare, but I think it ends up like. So the entry level Mac Pro is $2,800, but it's a Xeon, 2 Fire Pros, 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gig SSD. So like pound for pound, it's the same markup as a Mac Pro, if not a little more. Right?
But what Fire Pros are in it? Like,
a-
I mean,
there's a lot of Fire
2
Pros.
gig.
Yeah, but that like if I say D300, it means nothing to us. And
No, but that's what I'm
the
saying.
700, I believe, is what it equates to. They're not. They're like $500.
yeah, but
cards.
960s aren't powerful GPUs.
No, but I'm
really.
saying like those could be like the same class of Fire Pro performance.
Yeah.
In which case, in the Xeon part, is it a quad core hyper-threaded?
Yeah, it's a 125 watt part.
Okay, so it's a desktop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They use desktop Xeons.
Is it a quad core or
Yeah.
is it
At
an
the
8
base,
core?
it's a quad core. The next one up, I think, is
6 core.
Yeah. So it's a quad core hyper threaded.
So like a Core i7 or
It's kind of a stupid argument to make, but like a lot of people rail the Mac Pro for being way too expensive. And like,
so for $800
Turns
less,
out, if you want to
get
make every internal component a custom component like that,
Yeah, but-
it's expensive.
it starts but I mean the MSI one starts at $800 less. So what we need to do is we need to find out like where the performance
Well, an i5 is
stacks up.
nowhere near an i7 or a Xeon.
Well, it's a quad. I mean,
And
Xeon means nothing, right? Like a Xeon could be a quad core. They're a quad core
it's a
Xeon.
3.7 gigahertz quad core Xeon.
Okay,
And,
so
and this is
what
the,
are these in the 6600K maybe in the Core i5 variant,
Yeah.
right? So that's a quad core at
I would say
3.5
for
gigahertz.
$19.99 for that, it's a 6500, not a 6600K.
I don't know. But either way, like it's 100 megahertz.
It's a stupid
difference.
argument to make. I just thought I was.
No, it's interesting to know like where they start at, but the most important part to me is really what the performance of those two GPUs are compared to the performance of
I
the
bet
other
they're
two
pretty
GPUs.
similar.
I think with the 2 gig of frame, it's essentially a 7870.
Yeah,
Well,
I could see
and
that.
that 60 has 2 gigs of frame buffer, doesn't it?
What?
Yes.
960 2 gigs.
Yeah,
There
it
are
would be
some
a 2 gig.
4s out there, but I doubt they're using 4s.
No, I
But
think
that's
it'd be
Fire Pro, so it's I think it's a 7870
7870
I
like
think it's-
or a
class
R9
GPU.
270,
Yeah.
whichever
It's
you want.
Pitcairn.
So performance is going to be very, very close on those GPUs.
Yeah.
960 in Pitcairn.
Yeah. Right?
It's just kind of the CPU is where the difference.
960 is faster.
You think so?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
because I just tested a R7 370, which is the 7850,
Okay.
and that gets throttled by a GTX 950.
Okay. So maybe the MSI one is a much better deal in terms of compute capability. It was really cool to see regardless.
Yeah.
They had a handful of new motherboards. one that had like a gold a B150 motherboard that had like a gold finish on the PCB. It was actually really cool.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the same finish they did on that titanium board.
Just gold instead of a silvery titanium thing.
And it
kind of-
appeared to be glitter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looked like someone spilled glitter glue on the motherboard.
But I mean,
It looked good. It wasn't like super shiny glitter.
No.
It was like a matte
It would match your
finish.
gold iPhone.
Yeah, I don't have.
but how sparse that motherboard was compared to most any other
Yeah.
enthusiast. I mean, it was just kind of taking a step back to old school.
It was.
Yeah,
It's a B150. So
yeah.
it's like a budget.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was neat looking.
Yeah.
And they had like a new godlike update or whatever. So we have a video. We'll have a video of that pretty soon as well, so you can see those. And then they had if you remember the GS30 laptop they had, it was like a really thin machine with an Iris Pro graphics that had like a dock station for
You could
discrete
do
graphics.
discrete, like-
yeah. They've updated this now that's a GS40 that has a dock option that is way thinner, way better looking. It's kind of like at an angle so you could still use it while it's on it. And that'll be available relatively soon. And then they had a MSI GT72S with Tobii, which is eye tracking software. And it uses infrared lights to shine at your face. And so then it uses cameras to view that. And your eyes shine under these infrared lights, whereas nothing else does. So it can
What's
see
the
your
long-term
pupils.
detriment to your sight?
It's IR, right?
Yeah.
So your lenses are going to heat up.
Oh no. They reflect back. So your irises like reflect back, right? Is that how it works? Under IR light, like it bounces inside your eye, and it
Yeah, I guess
and
so.
It comes out
Yeah.
different, and that's so they have stereo cameras that read it in 3D space, and the idea is that you're using it on eye tracking. And I thought, well, okay, what a dumb gimmick this is going to be.
Did you like scroll down the web page with your eyes?
They didn't do 2D. They did a game demo.
I saw they had a browser up though.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I didn't ask to try it because we were trying to hurry our way through. But the gaming demo was with the new Assassin's Creed, and it really worked way better than I expected it to, sitting down in front of it. So if you've ever played Assassin's Creed Syndicate, you sit on a thing and you have a grapple this time to like go between long spans and buildings, but you can only grapple to certain areas, right? And so what you normally do with a controller or a mouse is you would move the character's vision so that like his head would kind of overlap these spaces, and then it would give you a prompt like, yeah, you can go here, 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 here. What they did with this eye tracking software, and it had to be integrated in with the game, was that you didn't have to move the controller at all. And as I looked around the screen, those places would become active. And once I found one I wanted to go to, I just looked at it, hit the button, and the guy would do it. Right? Like he would go across as if I had moved everything in there. It also had the ability to like pause the game. If you turned your head away for like more than 4 or 5 seconds or something like that, it paused the game. And as soon as you looked back, the game would unpause. So you know how it is. Like you're at home, your mom's yelling at you, the dinner's ready, and so you forget to pause it. Your Hot Pockets are done. You get up and you turn around and you're yelling at your mom, "Mom, not now! I'm playing my game."
There's nothing wrong with living with your mom.
No, I'm not saying there is, Sebastian. But the game would pause, and then as soon as you're done yelling at your mom about your Hot Pockets, you turn around and the game restarts. So that was pretty cool. And then the other thing they showed that this game did was if you were at a place that had like a dark area, like maybe like I don't know, like a dark alley, and then outside of that, there's a really bright sunrise happening or something like that, it tracked your eyes, and wherever you were looking, it put into the correct dynamic range. So if you looked into the dark alley, it would brighten that up, and everything else would kind of overexpose like it would in real life, right? When your eyes started to focus on a dark spot, and then when you went back to the light area, the dark area would become, too dark to see underexposed, right? And it was a really cool thing because you could just like move because when he was demoing it to me, I thought, man, this monitor is jacked up. The brightness is going all over the place. And I was like, is it tracking your eyes to see where you're looking? He's like, yeah, and most people don't notice that. And it's like, as you look around, it tries to keep like your eye at the kind of this default brightness and adjust everything else around it. I don't know how useful that is in like, a whole like actual playing a game the whole way through it, but it was really,
Boy,
really
I could have
neat.
really used it in Doom 3.
Yeah, but it was fast. It was responsive. It didn't feel slow or laggy. I didn't have to like look at something and like squint or wait or pause for the effect to take place.
Does it require integration with the game title?
Yes.
It does. Yes.
Okay, so it's not just something you install it as
No.
a layer and then
Nope.
suddenly... Okay.
Nope. So on the MSI laptop, it's like on the bottom of the monitor, there's like a red stripe across it that has lights, LED, or the
Did you make the
IR
monitor?
lights,
Yes.
and then the cameras that view it. And so it's integration like that I think maybe will push some other people to integrate some of the stuff. They actually sell add-on cameras for laptops and desktop PCs as well. It's called Tobii, Tobii.
No, actually, it's Kunta Kinte.
No, Tobii.
No, Kunta Kinte.
Well, you can look that up, but I don't think that's going to be an eye tracking technology.
You guys do realize?
Yes.
Yes.
We get-
No,
okay.
I get it. No, I get it.
Bye.
Tobii.
Okay.
Anyway, so that was MSI. They had some cool stuff, and we'll have videos up on those shortly if they're not already up as you watch or listen to this podcast. Zotac. You guys went to go see Zotac. What was there?
A lot of things.
Okay. What was interesting that was there, I guess?
Well, they have a brand new PCI Express SSD.
wish we had a storage guy
Who would talk about that?
really focused on.
Should get one.
He was more interested in the in the case mod there than really
Who?
the PCIe cards.
Who are you talking about?
I don't know.
Yeah, anyway.
There was this
so there's a
storage
PCI
guy.
Express SSD.
It's a kind of exactly what we've been.
Zotac PCIe
it's,
SSD.
it's what we've come to expect from these new announcements. It's Gen 3 by 4.
Yeah.
It's using a Phison controller. And he rattled off the controller name, which I could not remember.
Sure.
But it had really impressive sequential numbers anyway. It was 2,500 megabytes per second reads, 1,200 megabytes per second on writes. And
Seems good.
yeah, availability was upcoming. I don't remember exactly when. It was coming up a little bit later this spring. They only had one there. They originally had 2 units, but they only had one actually at the show. And it was in a running system, so we couldn't really look at it. But kind of your standard PCI Express form factor, low profile, heatsink. Sounds impressive. I asked him how the firmware was tuned, if it was tuned more for enterprise or home, and he says home.
Okay.
So it's tuned for throughput. It's not tuned for like max I/O.
Gotcha.
So then
Eventually, we'll get a storage guy to talk to us
Yeah.
and review it. Maybe.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
we looked at, of course, Zotac has a lot of mini PCs.
Yes.
They have Pico PCs and Nano PCs. I reviewed one of the Nanos, the C321 Nano, I think, last year. Mm-hmm. And they had the updated version of that, but then they had, the most impressive thing to me there was a completely passively cooled Skylake Core i5. It was a 6300U.
Okay. The same processors are in the new version of the XPS 13,
Okay.
I think.
And that's
right?
actively cooled, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This thing was solid. Like he warned me when I picked it up I picked him up. I didn't warn
I'm
him
heavy.
when I picked him up, but it was really heavy, and he said it has basically a massive aluminum heatsink inside.
Okay.
It was bigger than the footprint of one of their Nano PCs.
Okay.
So it expanded out to like 9 inches wide, but still small, unobtrusive, absolutely silent, decent compute power.
Yeah, that's an Ultrabook processor, 15 watts.
So it's a
CPU,
fanless Nook.
but bigger.
Yeah, pretty much,
Okay.
but fanless,
Yeah, no. That's
is
a
it
big
short
advantage.
and wide or tall?
short
Like-
and wide.
Okay. That's
It was
about
the
what I
same
said.
height as one of their other. Actually, it was slightly
About 2.5 inches tall.
Yeah, like it was actually
Okay.
shorter than the C321 that I looked at before, but
Bigger than a bread box or smaller than a bread box?
Smaller.
smaller than a bread box.
Cool.
Unless you like really crushed bread.
And they have their own version of the
Flatbreads.
compute stick with updated hardware, but
Lebanon.
that's coming from Intel anyway.
Right.
There's
Yeah,
just
it's a
like
rebranding on it, essentially.
Radeon stuff?
No.
What Radeon stuff?
I thought Zotac
Oh, they
was...
have a Z box with the Radeon.
yeah.
Oh yes, yeah, I forgot about that.
Everybody
gosh
looks
Josh
at me
is
like
here,
I'm an
you know?
idiot.
I was talking
Well,
about
I
was talking about the AMD
discrete
meeting we didn't
Radeon
have.
cards.
No.
What was the AMD card that was in it? Was it a mobile variant?
Yes.
Yeah, it had to be.
It's like the 365M or something like
Yeah.
that.
Talk about
Yes.
poor timing. I should probably wait for a Polaris part to put in a device like that.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Clearly.
But that was one of the things I told Zotac was, one of the biggest requests when we look at mini PCs is, I wish it had an APU in it. Or are you going to review one that has AMD in it? Because the idea of something small, low-powered, that has a little bit better graphics performance, you'd think, maybe an AMD mobile part or something. And because it's so in vogue to have a fanless device,
it is
for a micro PC like that.
Yeah,
they won't put an AMD APU in it. So once again, the only completely passively cooled with a little bit better CPU horsepower was Intel, but they did have an AMD system that was not passively cooled.
Then they had that Broadwell, the 5775.
That was like
U with Iris Pro.
Pro, perhaps?
Yeah, it had like dual gig E and
The 5775C was the one LGA.
it was the only LGA Broadwell part with Iris Pro.
53
It's the
something. I
only
can't
one.
I
thought it
can't
did an
remember.
R.
No, it was a C.
What was a C?
Well,
Yeah, I think so.
the one we're talking about was C.
The C was the socket. The R would have been the desktop BGA for all-in-ones.
That's what I think it was.
Okay.
I think it was
Okay.
5770R.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So
All right.
interesting stuff from them. We'll have the write-ups done, and
Yeah.
we'll have more details once we go through.
Graphics, they haven't had any new SKUs for a while, but they have, a pretty extensive
They have a
amount
lot
of
of
stuff.
GPUs, yeah.
Yeah, and so
A very nice arrangement. Alan got a nice photo.
yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And
Who's
who?
Alan?
There's one of the guys there.
Oh,
He's going to email it to me.
good.
Should have their GTX 950
Let's see.
review out next week, so
Okay, cool.
it's a good card.
After that, we went to
Spoiler
Corsair. We went to Corsair at the Palazzo with our good buddy George. They announced a couple of new cases: the 400C, the 400Q. We recorded videos of those. Those will be up eventually as well.
Those announcements had already been made, but it was the first time we were seeing like the prototype.
The announcements were made
Hardware.
like this week, right? Like earlier this week, or were they before that?
A little bit before, I think.
Okay, so these are. I really like the designs for them. One C for clear, it has a window. One Q for quiet. It does not have a window, but it
Kind of interesting
has
that the
sound dampening
600
material.
The Carbide 600 series just came out.
Yeah, and it's a full size.
Yeah,
And
just
this
like
is a micro
the end
or a
of November.
mid tower.
Yeah.
Does this, so it still supports a full ATX?
Yeah,
Really?
I
think so.
Yeah.
600s are full tower,
impressively
even though they
small for
really
that.
don't look like it. When you look at them,
They don't look as big
because
as you
they're
would
so
expect a full
squat,
tower.
you don't
Yeah.
realize how tall they are.
Yeah.
But they are full tower enclosures. This switches it up. It goes away from that inverted ATX. Goes back to standard ATX. It's
Gotcha.
a mid tower.
Gotcha.
So it's considerably smaller, but it has that same aesthetic. It's $50 less.
And,
So-
and they don't like tempered glass.
Well, no, it's
No.
expensive and breakable.
So,
Go ahead.
actually, it was kind of interesting to hear the difference and kind of the thought behind the fact that you have an identical case, one of which has a clear side panel, which also is hinged and has a nice latch mechanism, which is cool because you just like grab it, unlatch it, swing it out. And the other one has a solid side panel. The doors slide off. There's nothing
Like
fancy
normal.
about them. Yet the two are at the same price point. And the reason was, and it seemed completely rational, you have noise dampening throughout the entire enclosure with the Q.
With the 600Q.
Yep.
Or the 400Q for that matter.
And a quieter fans. Then you move to the C, and obviously because of the clear side panel, there's no noise dampening there. They actually don't do any in the case at all. Mm-hmm. But to make up for the difference in costs, that the sound dampening, raises the price a little bit, they
Right.
put in the nicer door. So
Okay.
Did we mention yesterday with Big Quiet that they have double paned windows on the side of their case to deaden sound
That's a good idea.
even more?
They do that at my house, I heard.
Very
It's like an
nice.
airplane.
Yeah.
not only do they have
Yeah.
double pane side windows, but they also put a rubber seal in between the two layers.
Prevent
Around the
vibration.
edge, yeah.
Sounds quiet.
They should be quiet.
Big Quiet, yeah.
Of
So
course, they had a lot of stuff. They had
So
the
that's-
cases. That was the one like smaller scale version of
Right.
the 600. then they have some really different looking.
Yeah, they got the Bulldog base.
So they got the Bulldog, which is the home theater PC one,
Yeah.
and then that came out at Computex time frame, and that was kind of a divisive
Galvanizing.
galvanizing.
product. Some people loved it, some people hated it.
Galvanizing.
So what they did was they built the Spec Alpha, which is essentially you take the Bulldog and you turn it on its side,
And you make it a larger case.
make it a little bit bigger, and then you put a ATX, standard kind of infrastructure in there. And I think it will have the same result for people. Either you're going to look at it and go, ugh, why would anybody ever build a machine that looks like that? And people that will fall in love with the angular design, the way the feet are kind of angled and different on all four
NZXT
sides.
Phantom did pretty well.
Yeah.
And it was asymmetrical and had some angles to it. Looked like a stormtrooper's helmet
Right.
if you got it in the white version.
So that's the Spec Alpha. We had a news post on that already.
We have video on those two cases,
Do we?
the 400s and the Spec Alpha.
Oh, they uploaded? Or we will have videos on them. If not, as you
One's
watch
done,
this.
one's still in progress.
At some point in the future, when you stumble upon this episode, looking at back episodes of the podcast,
Right, from a year and a half
All of
ago.
this
At
video will
least
be
by
available.
CES 2017, those
Yeah.
videos should be up.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to encode on some of the on the laptop that Ken's using.
I mean, I've got a 486, so I mean,
Yeah.
486.
yeah.
I was using that one. We're time sharing. We're time sharing.
Yeah.
Time slice.
And then they had the evolution of the Couchmaster.
The Lapdog.
Laptop?
That's a pretty good.
Oh,
name.
the Lapdog.
pretty good name.
And so it goes. It's sold to be marketed with the Bulldog system. It's actually a really cool thing. It's like
Think about this. You're in your home. You're sitting on the couch just like this. You've got your game up on the TV screen. How are you going to control it? You're going to lean forward and use your keyboard and mouse on the
Coffee table? No, that's awful.
No.
That's shitty.
You're going
You
to
don't wanna
get
do
your
that.
ironing board,
right.
set it
Yep.
up in front of you to give yourself a table.
No, an idiot would do that.
Yeah.
Only an idiot.
No one would do
No one would do
this.
that. Nobody
And
would
it's hard
buy.
to find lap desks these days.
Nobody would buy a medical adjustable height
Tray table.
So you
from
wait-
a medical supply
you wait
store,
for the
take the
holiday
wheel casters
season.
off, and use it for that.
No.
You wait for the holidays when stores start selling those weird beanbag filled lap desks again from like the early 1990s. But those aren't wide enough. So then you tape two of them together. And it's an ugly monstrosity.
What if I just use a controller?
No, but controllers are for
What?
losers.
Yeah.
Oh,
for PC
So
gaming?
the Lapdog is a platform that sits on your lap, as the name implies. It has a keyboard. It has a mousing surface. It has like places to run cables and stuff like that through it, and it's fairly well designed. I don't know anything else about it other than
Does
that.
it do wireless? Because I didn't really see a whole lot of
think
cables.
so. I don't think it does, because that would
I-
to power an RGB keyboard
Nah.
takes a lot of power.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think they do that. I mean, if they put a battery in it, like a fairly sizable battery, you might be able to do that. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I didn't.
To maybe
I
offer
didn't
it.
think I saw any wires running across the coffee table.
I think there were.
We'll have to check.
Maybe they were
Invisible
under
wires.
the coffee table. I'm
It's
pretty
a
sure
wired
it's not a
wireless device.
It's
It's a wire-free device.
wire
Yeah,
free.
wireless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the world's first wire-free
Keyboard.
camera.
Ken and I went to Gigabyte. We saw some new bricks devices, small form factor PCs, Nook likes, if you will, Skylake based. We saw one that had Thunderbolt 3 on it. We saw one that had they all had USB 3.1 at this point.
No.
I think. No,
No,
just most of them.
the lowest end SKU didn't.
Those SKU did not.
Because in the mid-range to higher end, you get DDR4 support instead of DDR3L in either the ASRock USB 3.1 controller or the Alpine Ridge.
as media USB 3.1.
As media USB 3.1 controller or the Intel Alpine Ridge Thunderbolt 3 / USB 3.1
Gotcha. And they look like the ID has changed on them. They actually look better now, I think,
It's got like
than they did before.
a brushed metal look, but it's plastic.
Yeah, it
Actually,
looks fine.
It felt good.
Yeah.
It was high quality plastic.
They still offer, the shorter version that just has M.2 SSDs, and then the larger version that will have 2.5-inch SSD support.
i3, i5, i7.
Yep.
whole sort of
M.2 for wireless connectivity and
is
for
still
storage
included.
now, and wireless is still included.
That's 7265.
So those look
I think.
neat. We saw a new series of motherboards called gaming workstation boards. These are based on the Intel C236 chipset.
And 232.
And C232 for the lower end stuff. And so this is like a response to the crowd of people, whether it be gamers on a budget or trying to just get the most bang for their buck, or people that want, slightly more stable focused infrastructure, like BIOS, not a whole lot of overclocking options, that type of stuff. That you can buy the Xeon Skylake processors that have the same or better performance for cheaper when they don't have the graphics enabled. Right, but to do that, you have to use C236 or C232 chipset or whatever.
Right, they've actually locked it out. Like,
yes,
the Z170 will not.
So these motherboards will support the Xeon Skylake, or Core i3 Skylake, or Celeron Skylake. Interestingly
no
enough.
i5 and i7.
I think if you probably try an i5, you might get away with it.
I didn't understand that. It's in their specs. It's just, that's what they say.
It is not an Intel supported thing.
Yeah. They're interesting boards. They had kind of like a digital camo, like a desert camo kind of design to them. They didn't have a whole bunch of features because, again, they're going for that workstation style class product.
Did they get into overclocking at all?
I asked them about that, and they didn't really say for sure. There's some base overclocking capability, like the base clock, but the Xeon processors are not unlocked.
Okay.
Right? So you'd be limited anyway.
Like some of those Z-series motherboards, there's a base clock generator on the board or a clock generator on the board for base clock adjustments.
Right.
So whereas Intel still doesn't really allow you to do whatever base clock you want, you can sort of get around that with these Gigabyte boards. And that should help with, like, we were in the UEFI and there were overclocking options.
Were there jumpers on the boards you could manually overclock?
So there were overclocking options for multiplier, but I didn't check if you could go up. Right.
Well, you won't be able to go up in multiplier.
Remember when the
Xeons are locked?
Right. That's what I mean.
The
but you could go down.
Like the original 2011 non-K, was it that you had like 4 steps you could move up?
Yeah. Like the straps or whatever for the base clock. Yeah. I mean, it's better than that now. But I think the people who are buying these boards are probably not super concerned about that aspect of it, right?
I mean, they're not because they're buying Xeons.
Right. Xeons that are locked inherently.
Right. If you're looking at like the Xeon that's about $280, that is about, I think it's a 3 gigahertz processor, quad core, 8 thread. That is, I guess you'd have to compare that against an i5 at around the same price, the Skylake i5 6600K.
So the idea is the Xeon parts, somebody's asking in the chat room, I thought Xeon parts were more expensive. It depends on what you're going for. Yeah, if you get like the 8, 12, 16 core Xeons, they're drastically more expensive.
These LGA 1151 Xeons, the Skylake Xeons, are not expensive.
They're essentially Core i7 parts with the graphics disabled.
Yes, and at lower clocks.
And slightly lower clocks.
Yeah.
And then like maybe you save $40 in the CPU or something like that. And a lot of people, use these
and those. $140 in the CPU.
Really?
Okay, so I've got this up right now. I'm searching on Newegg for the E3 V5s. So the one Sebastian's talking about, which isn't the highest end one, it's the E3 1230 V5.
I think it's the first one that's actually quad core 8 thread.
It is a 3.4 gigahertz quad core 8 thread processor, and it is $275.
The 6700K is $419.
It is 4 gigahertz, 4 to 4.2 turbo.
So it's faster.
Yes,
600
it's faster by clock.
4 to 600 megahertz, yeah.
They have the same amount of level 3 cache?
Yeah, 8 megs.
Both 8 megs.
Yeah, so I mean, I could see why people would... the people who are building machines trying to save $100 on a CPU. That's $100 you can put into a GPU. It's $100 you can put into an SSD, right? And so, whether that be for gaming or content creation or whatever, so that is the customer that Gigabyte's going after with this motherboard series. So we'll get some of those in. We'll take a look, and I need to, we just need to like say, okay, what is the community out there doing? They're building these machines. Let's just do it and see what the experience is like. And
the interesting thing to me is going to be, is this non-gaming, non-consumer chipset going to perform differently in any way?
I don't think it will.
You don't think so?
Shouldn't.
It shouldn't. Like, there's like
a reduced number of PCI Express lanes for like the 232, but it's not.
But not the 236.
Enough. Right.
Yeah.
Looking at this, like, why wouldn't you buy a Xeon?
Exactly. I would. If I was buying a system right now, I would absolutely spend $100 less on the CPU.
And are you
More than
required then to
$100
use
less.
that Xeon chipset?
Yes, you have
That-
to use the C236.
That is the that is the change Intel made with Skylake is they
You couldn't-
completely lock out Xeons from the Z series chipset.
Yeah.
Whereas it just wasn't really supported any like
It was just
most
a thing
motherboards
you
didn't
could
support
do
it, and sometimes
before.
it works, sometimes
Yeah.
it didn't. They weren't qualified. Now they're locked out.
Yeah.
I mean $420 to $275, and you're most of the way there. You're not
Yeah.
completely there on clocks, and
Right.
you can't overclock really. You might be able to get 100 megahertz out of it or something,
Right.
but like.
It was neat. So, I mean, we had seen other boards. Like we saw announcements a couple weeks ago from MSI and from Asus about.
Yes.
I think there were 1 or 2 boards each. Gigabyte had like 6 out there. Was it 6, 5, 6, 7, something like that? Different boards, right? Everything from micro ATX with the C232 to some that had USB 3.1. Things like that on them. So we'll take a look at that and see what they come up with. Motherboard prices apparently should be equivalent to kind of like similarly spec'd Z170 boards. So you're saving money on the processor. You're not going to save money on the motherboard.
At least it's not more expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You went to Silverstone. Was there anything at all there worth noting? Really, I know because they were still setting up and we kind of got there early.
And there's just kind of some new colors coming. This and that. There were a few interesting things though. Like I'll have a little bit more on it, but they had a brand new 850 watt power supply at the same 140 millimeter depth. So they keep on increasing the watts every year. These smaller form factor power supplies get more and more powerful.
This is SFX.
No, this was ATX. So the 140
Oh,
millimeter
right.
depth.
Okay.
The
Yep.
real shallow, full modular PSUs that they have. They have the smallest ones I've ever seen. And now it's up to 850 watts for their small 140 millimeter depth. And I believe that was
We lost another one.
either platinum or titanium. It was above gold.
Oh, okay.
And then in the SFX category, they have a new 700 watt coming out. And they have a new 650 watts.
Whenever you're good, Josh, let us know. He had to go get some water.
And you definitely couldn't hear it on the microphone.
Got some water. Anyway, sorry.
So they had a new. They've increased the fan size on even the smaller SFXs because they have an SFX and an SFX-L, and they increased the fan size on even the smaller ones now. They're up to 92 from 80,
Okay.
and increased the wattage again. So it goes from 600 to 650 for that same
So they're up to
SKU.
650 for that SFX stuff.
Yep,
now.
and 700 if you have a little bit more space for that longer SFX.
Right.
And that one
That's
goes up
impressive.
to 120 millimeter fan.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then they also, because they've increased the power, have added 2 PCI Express outs on the back instead of just 1. So before you could have like 2 cards if they both only needed a 6-pin, and now you can actually do two 6-pin GPUs off of it,
Right.
or 2 8-pin GPUs off of it.
Okay. And then we went to Digital Experience, where they gave me some sweet sunglasses, which I meant to wear on the podcast, but I totally missed out. They're sitting over there.
Do you want me to go get them for you?
No, I don't really.
I can fill up some water.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
And you're good too. So did anybody see anything that stood out at Digital Experience that they want to mention? I'm trying to think. I saw Dell. We saw Dell. So we saw the new XPS 13. It looks like my XPS 13. They had a new
Has a
XPS
flickering
15.
keyboard
Yeah.
option.
The 15, they had an XPS 12, the convertible, which
That looked awesome.
looks sexy until you put it in the keyboard dock.
The keyboard dock sucked,
my God.
but holding it and looking at the screen, it was a 4K display and a 12-inch form factor.
Looked great.
Had just ridiculously sharp.
PPI, bro.
And usually I'm
PPI, bro.
And half the battery life should.
I'm the biggest. I complain endlessly about Windows scaling on higher resolution displays.
Sure.
This looked great. I don't know if they were just pixel doubling or what, but it was just.
I mean,
it looked fantastic.
You didn't open the Win32 app that you use every day that doesn't support scaling. It looks like
Update your software,
Yeah.
neckbeard. Come on.
I only use Metro apps.
Yeah, what's up now?
Yeah, and they're full screen.
They had that ruggedized one that the lady threw at us.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
That was fun.
Josh was
bouncing off the floor.
Josh was like, "What's that rugged tablet?" And she grabs it and just like slams it
Slams
on the floor in front of her.
It's rugged. That's what it is. Or words that.
Got your attention, didn't I?
Oh man, I will say, like, back to that tablet, the 2-in-1,
and then the wireless display.
the convertible, like the fact that you can't like push the screen back
Yeah.
very far, like
Yeah.
totally kills it for me.
Yeah.
And most convertibles, a lot of convertible tablets have that issue, and it's really stupid.
Because if they allowed it to go any farther back,
tip
it would
over.
fall
Gravity.
off of the
It
mount.
would tip over, yeah. So you either need to add more weight to your base and suck
Which
it
they
up
should,
and have
they
a
should
total.
do anyway. That should be full of battery.
Well,
are
theirs
they-
had no connection, so I could see why they would do
Add a
it.
connection.
But
Problem solved.
Yeah. Anyway, what was the other thing from Dell?
You're welcome, Dell.
Yeah.
They had those
Problem solved.
colorful, inexpensive ones. Started like $199.
Were they Windows machines?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Windows 10. Like if you have, it's
Windows 10
HP
with
has
Bing?
a product like this. It's the HP
the
Stream.
Stream.
Oh, okay.
So they have their own, and it's the same $199 price point. And because of the version of Windows 10 that's on it, Microsoft puts a limitation of 2 gigabytes of RAM and 32 megabyte eMMC.
Yeah,
Gigabyte.
32 gigs.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
gigabyte. 32
32
megabyte
meg.
eMMC.
You can't even load the operating system in
You
that
load the
storage.
operating system off of the network, and you have 32 megabytes
shit.
of storage.
SD card, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
No SD card slot though. Sorry.
Really?
So that was Dell.
How do you not put an SD card slot on the machine?
It's $199.
But it only has 32 gigs of storage.
I have no idea.
Even
if
like
it has
Chromebooks
ST.
have SD
It
cards.
probably has ST.
Google Cloud.
.com.
GoogleCloud.com. #.net.
Hashtag IRT.
They had a 24-ish looking inch display
Yeah.
with antennas on the back of it, and they said this is a wireless display. So it's like, oh, is this like wireless HD?
It's Y gig,
No.
whatever.
The 802.11 AC. You just attach it to your home network, so it's on the same network as everything
Yeah.
else, and then Miracast compatible mobile devices and your computer can just broadcast to that screen. So they had a laptop, just a Windows 10 laptop, wirelessly broadcasting to the display.
And if you
I didn't
had
know
an
this was
Android
wireless.
phone, you could attach it to that.
Yeah.
Well,
But
It's an
you don't.
interesting idea.
So
They said they're going to have a lot more announcements tomorrow.
yeah.
So we'll see what else they come up with, because the XPS 13, XPS 15, and 12 were already things that were announced. So nothing new at Digital Experience there.
I think that might be it.
I saw some baby stuff. I saw a self-installing baby car seat for my super secret project about baby review products.
Uh-huh.
You're reviewing babies.
You know what's really hard to do is to walk up to a company and say, yeah, no, my badge says PC Perspective when I review motherboards, but can I have your free baby stuff? Because I promise we're doing a baby stuff website soon.
And then you take
and
it
they
home,
go,
you're
yeah,
Free
you
baby
just
stuff.
call me later sometimes. Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
We got nothing.
Yeah, and I thought,
I
like,
think we got further with the headphone people.
yeah, you probably
I think
did.
so.
But like, I thought we did okay, because we had this. We're two new dads. I have a 6-month-old. He has a 3-month-old.
Is this his pitch
and we're
for a
doing
sitcom?
this thing.
Two new dads.
And I thought it was
We're
gonna
two
be-
new dads.
I'm
and
cutting
we
this
live
part out.
together.
I'm cutting this part out. I'm selling it to CBS.
Okay,
Ken has no children. I've got two 13-year-olds.
right. So it's different. You don't need a
Yes.
car seat for him exactly.
No, but I do need a straight jacket.
Yeah. I felt like there was something else. Like, there's really nothing else that we saw that was like there. So there was a lot of cool things at Digital Experience, but they're all like not hardware
Like consumer
specific.
technology.
Yeah.
Weird.
Internet
Weird how that
of
is.
things.
Hashtag.
Oh wait,
IoT.
no, wait. There was one. ViewSonic.
Oh,
We saw
yeah.
ViewSonic. They announced like 100 new monitors. Apparently, that's like
I feel like that's probably what they do.
They're still around?
Monitor.
ViewSonic's still around. They announced VSync. I'm sorry. They announced G-Sync and FreeSync monitors
Oh, good.
for the first time.
Yeah.
On display, they had a
The world's
27-inch.
first G-Sync and G-Sync
Right.
monitors.
They had a 1080p 27-inch 144 hertz TN FreeSync monitor on display. Not playing. No, that was playing a game, wasn't it? And then they had
It was playing CSGO, and it was maxing at 100 frames per second all the time.
Yeah, you're right. The G-Sync one that they had there was 2560 by 1440 IPS, 165 hertz. So it's very clearly using the same panel or panel tech as the Asus and the Acer 165 hertz IPS G-Sync display.
Yes, but
But
But they've got the
quality?
3 birds in the bottom.
I don't know.
You know the butt.
The price?
Yeah,
Well, they didn't really say.
it's in their press release.
So but what the last thing he told me after we recorded was that he said the pricing, it wasn't on the card for this one, but we're aiming for $799 is what he told me, which is exactly the same price.
Really
that
tell
they-
the person that wrote that press release.
right, which is the Acer and the Asus, which is exactly the price
some
there.
sort of weird problem with
It's probably that somebody set the price and didn't realize that this monitor was already shipping by other people.
That's my theory.
No, that happens a lot actually.
$1,217 is not a United States price for a product.
That was what it was. 1217.
$1,217. I'm looking at it like that's not a U.S. price. That's not
No,
right.
somebody screwed that up.
$1,217. No, not $1,217.
Just kind of like stroked out on their keyboard for a second.
$1,217. What they meant was $799, possibly.
This feels like a $1,270 motherboard. to
Okay,
me.
now we
Or
can have the
monitor.
discussion of would you buy a ViewSonic monitor over an Asus monitor for the same price? Which I think is an interesting discussion.
I don't know.
ViewSonic used to be the bomb.
That's what I say. He said we've been making monitors for 28 years.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 38 years, whatever it was.
In their
Long
own
time.
factory, they've been making monitors for that long?
ViewSonic?
Yeah.
I think so.
They don't source the panels from anybody else.
Well, of course
now
source
they
the
do.
panels.
Yeah.
Sure. But they were
So they
like
make the plastic.
They made the best
plastic
CRTs.
bezels that you trust, that you've trusted for the last
Yeah.
20.
Oh,
But
yeah,
there's-
their flat shadow mask were inexpensive and they look
The
great.
CRTs? Oh, yeah. I have 3 ViewSonic CRTs
We
in my
don't need
basement.
to talk about CRTs. They're not relevant to the situation.
Whoa,
Sure.
CRTs are always relevant.
So it's interesting.
Lag, bro.
My ViewSonic CRT
It's-
was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's interesting
flat
to
ones.
see another kind
Never had a
of
ViewSonic.
entrance into
like a
G.
TDS.
Hey,
Stop it.
Shut the hell up. Which number are you? To see another entrant into G-Sync and FreeSync in there, but I don't know what else they're going to have to offer.
Like I scrolled through the press release, they announced a ton of monitors.
Yeah, like there's
Like
a
8 FreeSync
1080p
monitors.
and a 25 and a 4K, and there's a TN and an IPS of each, and like for each for G-Sync and each for FreeSync. Like it's very
It's like they hired someone 6 months ago and they went, "Oh yeah, gaming."
right. Yeah.
Do they have the cool gaming aesthetic?
No,
Was it like
I mean,
red
it's
trim
okay.
and
It is-
sharp
So
angles?
the GeForce G-Sync ones have green accents, and the FreeSync ones have red
oh,
accents.
that's clever.
Do they still have the 3 birds at the bottom?
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
They have. It's actually kind of neat. They have a headphone hanger on the back
stands.
on the back of it, like it folds out.
Handy.
What was that? The BenQ one that we had that.
Yeah.
One of the first FreeSync monitors.
They're very well designed, pretty minimalist, not like super gamey, super flashy or anything. All matte plastic. They look good.
Yeah, they look fine. I just I was very upfront with them. I said, so how are you going to compete knowing that there's 2 of this exact monitor in the market? He was like, well, I said, is it going to be on price? Is it going to be on features? Is it going to be on quality? Like, what's your angle? He's like, well, we have a good angle on all of those things. Like, we think we could do this on quality. We've been making monitors for 38 years or 2,800 years or whatever it is.
Yep.
And, I don't know what that brings necessarily. The FreeSync monitors are available like now. The FreeSync one they had on demo. The G-Sync one they said would be like middle of the year. So there's still...
No,
there's,
I thought it was earlier than that.
well,
I
it
thought
was months
like,
from now at least.
like February or something like that.
Yeah. So it's going to be
I
a while
kind
for
of
me
trust.
to-
ViewSonic invented television. That's why it's called television after ViewSonic. So
Yeah.
I trust them. They bring me football every Sunday.
I mean, they invented the Stone tablet. They invented the Abacus television. It's just a long lineage.
If I was looking at the same
children.
price point for Asus or ViewSonic or Acer, like a Predator monitor or something, and ViewSonic had the most desirable warranty,
I was gonna say, maybe it's like a warranty or
cross-shipping,
something. Yeah.
no dead pixels, I'd be like, you know what? I'll get the ViewSonic.
Is there somebody in the chat room saying that they would buy a ViewSonic G-Sync panel if it didn't look like a gaming panel?
See, and there are people
There's
who don't like
absolutely.
that.
I don't need
garish,
sharp edges and LED light rings
It's
on
gaming.
my monitor.
Okay, that means it's red.
Right.
That's what gaming has meant
Even
for
if it's
a few
G-Sync
years
panel
now.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Weird.
the Asus thing.
Gaming means
So
you like
anything
really,
else?
really flashy, sharp edges.
Right.
My battery's about dead.
Anything else from whatchamacallit then? I don't care if your laptop dies. It's
Yeah, is
charging
your laptop
right there.
recording anything?
So anything else from digital
Just
experience,
everything
Josh?
you do.
Nothing.
That's weird.
Yeah, I mean, we just
Tried some
sup.
high-end headphones.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
were nice.
those were sweet. The Odyssey,
I don't know.
Sebastian.
Odyssey or Odyssey. It looks like Odyssey, but I guess it's
But it's Odyssey.
The Odyssey.
And then the Shure guys, they both had really fantastic sounding.
Josh and Ken went to look at Audio Gear while Sebastian and I went to look at Baby Gear.
I looked at Odyssey first. I went over there and
It's all about priorities.
they have planar magnetic headphones. And years ago, Stax had these things. You had to buy their amplifier with it. It was like a combo. You had to have the Stax amplifier. They're big headphones with big drivers that move a lot of air, and it's all planar magnetic. So you have extremely precise control over the actual
Diaphragm.
Yes. So what you get is incredible detail retrieval. These are they were lightning connector headphones. So they weren't analog. They had their own DAC, their own headphone amplifier built in line.
Okay.
So the little unit that would have the microphone and the button to answer a call, that was a DAC. It was a 24-bit high-res DAC. And handled high sample rates. So I'm plugging it into their demo iPhone and listening to some high-res music. It sounded fantastic.
It sounded real good.
Yeah.
And really good bass.
Did you listen to last night's podcast on it?
Nope. That sound is pretty crappy.
We wanted
We shipped this podcast at 48K.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kilohertz.
16-bit.
I looped
48K.
the PC Per theme song over and over again.
So you mean sabotage?
All right. Clearly, we have nothing else to talk about here. We have a large array of meetings set up for tomorrow, and we will have one more podcast tomorrow night as well. Hopefully, we'll record it a little bit earlier than we recorded this one. For instance, we have Alan has a bunch of storage meetings. I don't know who Alan is. He's in this calendar, but he
it's
may
that guy
not
from
show up.
Zozak.
You mean Alvin?
Alvin Malvin. Yeah. No, yeah, he'll be here. Guest star.
Maybe. I don't know.
Intel, Asus, Inwin, Monoprice, Lian Li, AMD, Logitech, EVGA, Seasonic, Crucial, Micron, Patriot, OCZ, AData,
Good
Plextor,
Lord.
That is a
Phison.
lot more than today.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
Yeah.
How about if
Think about it.
instead we just don't
run away.
No.
We can watch Star Wars.
Oh,
Maybe we go to the $5 blackjack.
there's a
table.
TV in here. We'll figure it out.
Let me see what time it
Just
is.
watch all of the
Nope.
Star Wars.
Nope. All right, guys, that's going to be it for tonight's podcast. We will see you tomorrow, despite what they say. And thank you very much for joining us. Good night.
Good night.
Right.